So over the past couple of months, it's been a little bit quiet on the front of Anthem news, but with the reveals coming up in June of this year, we started to see the communication increase. We also have words from both Bioware and EA on how they plan to essentially not screw the pooch this time around. And that's definitely an interesting section, stick around for that. We also have more news and insights about customization, stats, Javelins, and how some of the post-launch support is going to work for a live game such as Anthem, so let's get into it. What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we finally have some more Anthem stuff to talk about. First up, I wanted to touch on some statements from both Bioware and EA about Anthem. The first one comes from Casey Hudson, the general manager of Bioware, who speaks about some of the issues in Mass Effect Andromeda and how they plan to avoid those issues in Anthem. So he says, when I returned to Bioware last summer, Mass Effect Andromeda had just been released and there was a significant movement among players asking for a story DLC that would answer questions surrounding the fate of the Quarians. As you know, we were not able to deliver that story DLC for Andromeda. This was frustrating for us as it was for players, and it was something we knew we had to solve in future games. We need to delight players with new experiences and innovation, but we must stay focused on the importance of the world, character, and storytelling elements that players expect from our games. Our games must be designed to continue delivering new stories and experiences in an ongoing relationship with players in the worlds we're evolving over time. In that spirit, we're working through production on Anthem, a game designed to create a whole new world of story and character that you can experience with friends in an ongoing series of adventures. It will be unlike anything you've played, but if we do it right, it will feel very distinctly Bioware. So Hudson is generally trying to encourage the fanbase that they are focusing on Anthem and they're trying to avoid the issues, especially things like Mass Effect Andromeda. In terms of the Bioware fanbase, that definitely shook things up, and there are a lot of folks who are incredibly wary. Another front where people have become pretty wary, especially with EA, is of course microtransactions and loot boxes. And Patrick Sutherland, who's now the Chief Design Officer for EA, actually gave a statement about this. So he talks initially about Battlefront. Of course, there was a big fiasco there surrounding the loot boxes, but he goes on to say, we've taken significant steps as a company to review and understand the mechanics around monetization, loot boxes, and other things in our games before they go to market. For games that come next, for Battlefield or for Anthem, players made it very clear that we can't afford to make similar mistakes, and we won't. It's clear to us that players see the company differently than we do, and in that situation, as a member of the executive team, as the guy who runs all of the studios, I have to take that seriously, and we have to continue to listen and understand what's triggering that. We have to be very cautious of what we do. So I think that is worth pointing out. Of course, not everyone is going to believe statements like that. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak. One thing that I think is worth saying, though, is that with all of the fuss that we've seen around things like the microtransactions in Battlefront, even Destiny 2, the industry is definitely paying a lot of attention, because in both of those instances, you know, the vocal player base, the people who don't like these features being in the game, have drummed up essentially a lot of bad press for big firms like EA and Activision. Moving away from that though and onto Anthem stuff, of course we can expect to see more of Anthem, some kind of reveal inside of EA Play. And EA Play is happening from June 9th to the 11th of this year, so it's pretty soon. Brennan Holmes from Bioware did actually say, we did get a sneak peek of a little something on the side at our milestone review, and it was very cool. It's likely to be shown at EA Play. So it's worth just bearing in mind that is when we can expect to see more major Anthem news. But Brennan Holmes did give a pretty interesting response to a question. So someone said, hey Bioware, I was curious, I noticed some good questions being posted by others, myself included, and you haven't been responding. And Brennan Holmes said, we're just at the end of a milestone review right now, so we're all pretty heads down, or at least that's why I haven't been as active here over the past couple of weeks. Beyond that, there are some broad topics that I can't really speak about right now, including monetization, progression, PvP and PvE, etc. And usually the more specific the question, the harder it is to answer. The interesting thing here though is that it refers to PvP versus PvE. It's one of the first times PvP has ever been mentioned. Of course, it isn't confirmation of anything whatsoever, but it definitely suggests that there is some possibility of seeing a type of PvP in a particular instance. Of course, that could be anything, but it's certainly very interesting. Up next, though, we have an interesting question about loot drops and duplicates inside of Anthem, because of course we don't know what kind of loot systems we're going to see there. Brennan Holmes did say, philosophically, we want all of the items you get to have some kind of value. While we still can't really speak too much about specifics, I'd be interested in what other kind of of mechanics you guys find interesting from other games. And it had previously said one advantage to having a more static model in terms of perks and attributes on gear is that it's a lot easier to entice players into different styles of gameplay. You find something new, it's more powerful than what you have, and you're likely to give it a go. Alternatively though, with things that grow in power over time, you tend to get a lot more attached to the items you have. They start to form a part of the identity of your character. A lot of it depends on what the progression goals are within a given system. Currently we're doing both styles for different areas of progression. So some stuff is likely to be fixed and you can't really alter it too much, and in other areas there will be more customization or randomization of attributes, perks. Again, these are systems we don't know that much about yet. However, in a game like this, of course, you look at Destiny 2, it has fixed and static roles on pieces of gear, and it definitely poses an issue for the loot system. So I really hope Bioware are taking note of that. Next though, somebody said in the gameplay trailer for Anthem, it shows 4 javelins, the one the player is wearing, the tank that the other guy is wearing, the mystical one that came out near the end, and whatever Kim was wearing. I think it's the same one as the main player. Are all of the suits going to have a class like this, like a wizard javelin, a rogue, a tank, etc.? Also, is there any way you can tell me how the suits are obtained? Is it going to be like Warframe where you have to build each Warframe, or like Destiny where you get one at the beginning? Brennan Holmes says yes, 2 of the suits were the same type. It was a ranger javelin with customization. Largely the suits are like classes, each has its own personality. We want you to be able to bend it towards other playstyles with your choices, but not so much as to lose the identity of the suit. We're still figuring out some of the details on how specifically you'll acquire these suits. And someone went on to say with most MMO style games, the higher level you get, everyone starts looking identical, which takes away from the personal ID. I know the Division strayed from that and it worked pretty well. And Brennan said internally we use the term customization for configuring your suit or equipment, and we use the term personalization for configuring your appearance. Largely we want players to be able to express themselves with their javelins. Let's say we're both playing with the same suit for 100 hours, we could have similar equipment, but we should look very different. And then somebody asked, will we get to choose between a male and female character? Brennan Holmes said yes. So some interesting insights about the kind of base customization there. But now we have some stuff about the live game and how Bioware plan to actually update Anthem and things like that. So the question is, when it comes to how the studio handles live updates, is it the case where there's one department or team that handles live updates while another handles DLC, expansions and sandbox, or does everyone involved function as a cohesive group? And Brennan said eventually we'll probably be split up more like that, with one team handling the day-to-day life balance, tuning and bug fixing, and other teams working on near or longer term stuff. Teams are generally cross-disciplinary, though a lot of it depends on the type of content they're producing. Most of this is speculation at this stage as we're still working on the main game. The only thing I can really say with any certainty is that it's very likely we'll be organizing ourselves differently when it comes to live. Another question was, how will Bioware combat the eventual rise of exploits within the game? Case in point, the loot cave from Destiny 1. And Brennan said we're trying to ensure that we're able to be reactive as problems and opportunities arise. Our ability to hotfix some types of content will probably be a large part of the puzzle. So it seems like right now they're kind of working on systems in the game. It seems like they have a lot of different customization options kind of already built in. And of course the next big part is how you earn that stuff, how you progress that stuff, the things that are going to be given to you easily and the stuff that is much more difficult to acquire, and how you kind of balance around that and provide progression over time. One thing I think is particularly interesting right now in the games industry in general is there is so much reference material for games like this. Going back, we've had all of the MMO stuff, we've had things like Diablo that's come forward with the games with the RPG and MMO elements kind of combined. You've got things like Destiny, The Division, and I would say that there is an absolute ton of reference material at this point. And once again, Destiny, which we've covered a lot on this channel, is a game which is brought up quite a lot by players asking questions. I think looking at what Destiny 1 did well and where Destiny 2 fell short is definitely very, very valuable. But again, there are so many games and different systems that have been used that they can draw from at this point. It's just going to be very interesting to see if Bioware can execute on these kind of game mechanics. But there are certainly some very interesting insights there in my opinion. Again, just over a month we're going to get more gameplay of Anthem, and hopefully we'll get more general gameplay details. For now though, that is going to summarize the bulk of the stuff I wanted to talk about in this video. I'll be curious to hear any of your thoughts in the comment section below. As I've said previously, I will be covering Anthem here on the channel as we lead up to release, and kind of keeping track of what's going on with the game, because either way I think it's going to be a very interesting one. For now though guys, if you've enjoyed the video, a like is appreciated. If you want to see more Anthem content down the road, be sure to hit that subscribe button. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.